Hi, everybody. Welcome to our monthly discussion with people in the art world for the Sassy Museum, located in California. But of course, anymore, it seems like you're doing so many things online, Gene, that we can. It's become a kind of an international space, and I know that's part of your design.
Yeah, we had two more countries log into our newsletter this month.
Oh, that's great. Who was that?
I don't know who, but one was in Antigua, and the other one, actually, we had India earlier this month, and so it keeps growing.
That's great. That's great. And we have with these conversations, we save them, and of course, people can watch them at their leisure, and I'm sure they look at it from all over the world. So welcome to all those people. And today we have somebody from Ireland who is not an artist, but a gallery owner, and somebody who promotes the arts and understands the arts and helps us to appreciate the art. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. Ciara Hambly. Did I say that correctly?
That's absolutely 100% correct. Thank you, John.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, hi, Ciara.
Well done. Yeah, my name is Ciara Hambly, and it is my privilege to be a gallery owner and director in the north of Ireland, representing various artists from both sides of the border in Ireland, north and south, and also internationally. And I'm listening.
Parent sauce?
Sorry.
Parent sauce?
We need to mute everyone, maybe, John.
Yeah, I'm going to ask everybody to mute themselves. We're getting somebody's background. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Am I muted? Okay. Okay.
I will mute you there. There you go. Okay. I'm sorry about that, Ciara. Go ahead.
Absolutely no problem. So I was just introducing myself there, John. Thank you very much. My name is Ciara Hambly, and I'm owner and director of Hambly and Hambly Art Gallery and Cultural Hub in Enniskillen, which is in the north of Ireland. And we represent a large number of artists from the north and south of Ireland and internationally. And we are absolutely delighted now to be in new partnership with Jean Sassy at the Sassy Art Museum in Los Angeles, and we are planning exciting events for 2023 together.
Well, that's really great, and that's actually where I was going to start. I was going to ask you, what is the collaboration like with the Sassy Museum? What sorts of projects are you doing?
Well, really, the first thing I ought to say is a big thank you to Maurice Quillian, who is one of our artists at Hambly and Hambly. He's also represented too by the Sassy Art Museum. He's a fabulous ambassador for international art, and he introduced Jean Sassy and myself to one another. And we've been meeting now for months online and planning exhibits in Los Angeles, France and Ireland together to represent our artists in a new sort of international collaboration.
Before I start asking questions, I just want to say to everybody, you should feel free to ask questions too. Just you can raise your hand or jump in just by meeting, or if you're feeling uncomfortable about that, you can put it in the chat, and I'll try to see it. If I don't, somebody else can stop me and say there's somebody in the chat. So we've had discussion with Maurice in the past. You might remember, and he has a certain approach. His international work is interesting, and from what I gather, you do similar kind of work internationally. And you've got do you have a sense of mission in what you're doing?
Yeah, that's exactly why I do it. Sometimes I sort of say to myself, what's my purpose here? But it's a fundamental belief in the ability of art to progress our concepts, our philosophies, our relationships internationally and personally. And I think actually Maurice made a really good pairing when he introduced Hambly to the Sassy Art Museum, because I think we share a very similar philosophy, and it does go beyond the average representation which a museum or gallery would give to their artists. It is much more global and outward thinking and fundamental, I suppose, in the belief of arts to speak a language to all of us, which can connect us and grow us.
Yeah, that's really, so is it a mission of understanding and peace? Is that how you think of it?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a mission of understanding, peace, connection, development, all of the wonderful things that art has the capacity to do that perhaps politics doesn't. You know, art is a language of peace and it is a language of connection. And art has existed since the drawings in caves as a means of communication and connection. And we need to continue to celebrate that and continue to grow it and to remember that art is probably our foremost means of communication and connection. Hence the beautiful new development between the USA and ourselves in an attempt to connect and to grow things.
Was that difficult for some people here? Oh, just the last part I missed a little bit.
Do you want me to repeat, John? Is that?
Yeah, just the last part of what you were saying. It kind of got fuzzy.
Yeah. I think I was saying that really that art has that ability to connect us, and that I believe personally that is the very, very strong collaboration that is taking place between Hambly and the Sasse Art Museum, is that we share that philosophy and that we think perhaps beyond the average sort of gallery or museum in their concept in that thinking. And somewhere in our outward thinkingness, we have connected across transatlantically and hopefully grow communities and grow our concept of what art can do.
That's really interesting. It's a philosophical approach that not a lot of museums do. I think of like the Tate Modern or something, and it might have international impact. It obviously does, but it's not. It's the main purpose is the celebration of and education of a small group of people, right? So Tate Modern is there for the people in London. The Norton Simon's there for the people in Los Angeles. But this is different. This is a whole different approach. It seems to be more active to me. Do you think it's more active than most museums?
I think yes, it is certainly more active, and I think where that activity comes from is commitment, and that's what I recognise in Jean and in the Sasse Art Museum, is that there is a really deep commitment to a level of progress which goes beyond the average museum or art gallery.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Okay, so when we were talking with Morris, he was talking about the concept of borders, and he was in a sort of mixed feeling about them because he had been working towards the ending of seeing the world in terms of border, but this is right as the Ukraine war was starting, and how do you then think about how do you be anti-border when you're trying to protect the border of a group of people who are being invaded? So the question became really complex for him, and I think for all of us. And I'm wondering where you're thinking of. You're in a really interesting space. You're in Northern Ireland, which because of Brexit now is in some ways separated from Southern Ireland. And I'm guessing your concept of border is really complex, and how your art is working with that. I just wonder if you could comment about that a little.
I think geographical borders, physical borders, in terms of the geography of our countries, actually help us to open our minds and to lose philosophical borders. So sometimes working within the confines of geographical borders, which we are doing, particularly since Brexit here in the North of Ireland, it promotes an activity within us which says, what can we do to overcome the practical difficulties which physical borders present? And we have to be outward thinking, And we have to believe in connection over borders and working across borders, and to some extent working and appreciating that borders do exist, but working in ways that allow people to connect across borders and to have a much more international perspective and dimension in what they're doing.
Mm. So that there is a definite function for the border then.
There are functions for borders, and I suppose we will always have borders. We're never going to lose borders. But what we need to do is figure out a way of how we can work to the best of our ability with those borders in place. So the practicalities, for example, of Brexit, which is pertinent to us where we are in the world at the moment, have presented difficulties. And in order to progress, we need to think of ways in which we can overcome those difficulties. And art presents a means of collaboration, working together and working beyond with a much bigger perspective than simply working within the confines of geographical borders. So somehow the geography of the border helps us to expand ourselves in our philosophy and in our outlook and to look beyond.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Now you've got a really interesting roster of people that you're showing now. You sent me that list of people. I was just wondering how you choose your artists.
Oh, you know, that is such a difficult process, the selection process. And the first thing I would like to say is that I'm incredibly and privileged to work with such a number of incredibly talented people. And I would never take the responsibility of selection entirely upon myself. So I work with other people to advise and to collaborate and to put a really good eye over what we're doing. And really, I suppose with any exhibition and the curation of any exhibition, it's about how the artists' work join together in a conversation and how the individual artists' pieces come together as a collective. And that is really how an exhibition is formed. It's the conversation of pieces between individual artworks.
Is there any way to express that in words? Like what is the conversation these artists are having? Or is that something beyond words?
Well, something I want personally, and I hope that this is universal, is I want a conversation which engages. So I need to be prepared to listen. So when I look at something, I need it to sort of stop me and silence me visually if I'm looking at an artwork. And then I need it to have an ongoing capacity to maintain my attention and something that continues to grow me. So when I look at visual art, I think that's really the test for me, is something that continues to speak and something that continues to still and to grab my attention. And of course, visual art is one aspect. The relationship that visual art then has with literary art and musical art and performance art, they all come together to make a really, really fantastic conversation. And that's something that we're trying to do with the Museum, is bringing visual art as an exhibition to Los Angeles, but we're also going to be bringing some literature and some music as well to make the conversation something that Los Angeles and the people of the USA really, really want to listen to and be engaged in.
Oh, that's extraordinary. I was okay. So you sent me a list of artists, and I've gone to their websites and to your website too. And I was just wondering if we could go through some of these people and you could explain, why as you chose them, both philosophically, maybe visually. And maybe let's go here. Maybe a good place to start would be with Morris, since he's figured so large in this conversation. Yeah. This is obviously your website. Maybe if you could describe, just what is he saying to you, what he says to you, and why you think it's important for the rest of us to see?
Well, Morris is an artist of incredible depth. That's the word that really springs to mind when I look at his work. The layers in his work are going really beyond the superficial, and his work represents me with longevity, with durability, with excitement. I love the texture in his work. I love the dynamism in his work. And he presents to me something very exciting in Irish art at the moment, and that is that he is progressing things. So his work over the years has really evolved, and to me he is one of our most exciting artists in terms of his progression, in terms of his concepts, in terms of where he's pushing our borders and our boundaries beyond. And I just love his work. It's work that engages me, that I can look at for a long, long period of time and continually see something new and something different in. And his use of color, texture, layer is really exemplary. So his work is up there. It's top.
It's interesting. You said there's is there a definable national identity to Irish art?
Well, I think there's something really wonderful about Irish art, and that is that it is courageous and it continues to perpetuate itself and to push itself forward. And art in Ireland is a very, very strong means of communication and connection. And particularly, I think, with our social, political background, art is a method of communication which is non-intimidatory, which allows people to connect to one another, which goes beyond the everyday. And Irish art, I do think, wholly believe, is really out there in terms of leading, in terms of progression, in terms of the courageous approach which our artists adopt. And also I would say that art in Ireland is actually vital to our survival. It has become a means of people being able to talk in ways that perhaps normal conversation have prohibited, with some of the political problems that we've faced in our very recent history.
Yeah, of course, I'm more familiar with literary arts in Ireland, and so much of it is so incredibly political, both in a governmental sense, but also national sense of identity. And I'm guessing the art is tied up in that way as well.
It is. It certainly is, and that is why the arts in Ireland are so well supported, both north of the border by our wonderful arts councils, who do fund a lot of international projects, Culture Ireland, why we have such fabulous ambassadors working on international platforms like Morris Cullinan, who really go beyond normal expectations and commit themselves entirely to presenting Irish art on an international platform.
So that's great. Well, maybe take a look at another one of these art. How about John Kingerly? Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah. So John Kingerly's art is celebrated very highly. He is an international artist of real acclaim. His art has fetched huge, I suppose, financial acclaim throughout the world. He has been auctioned at some of our biggest auction houses in London, Sotheby's and Christie's. His work is continually gripping, evolving, layered. He would be one of our leading Irish artists as a mentor to other visual artists. People, use his work as an inspiration, and he had several biographies written about his work. He is really a leading light, and actually as a person himself is highly reclusive. We don't often hear from him on a personal level, but we don't actually need him to communicate with us in that capacity, because his art speaks volumes. His art is really inspiring, and again, it's visual art which will continually engage us, continually speaks to us. The layers in his work, and his work continues to grow. So see the use of collage, his texturing, his layering, his use of color. It's a conversation which is really, really gripping and progressing, and it's, you know, and we're incredibly proud to bring his work over to Los Angeles and show it to our friends in the United States of America.
Seems like there's a level of national pride as well as collaboration, right? This is something that people should know.
Yeah, I think so. I think that we can be proud. We can be really proud of what our artists are producing, because it really is world class. And I think that is the reason actually why we have cultural centres all over the world. We're very pleased that there's one in LA for Irish art, and we try as an individual organisation and a gallery, we try to reach out and connect to those international organisations and to work in close association with them, because they're doing such good work to promote Irish art on an international level.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, a lot of Americans see themselves as having come from Ireland. A lot of us did come from Ireland. So there's a connection.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at maybe just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Beautiful, strong links.
Yeah.
Between Ireland and the US, yeah.
Let's take a couple more of these artists. And Jennifer Troughton, she's in the latest show.
Jennifer Troughton, yeah. We're absolutely thrilled to have Jennifer Troughton on board for this exhibition. And her work is highly inspirational. She's already had a solo show recently in Los Angeles. She is the Northern Irish Arts Council sponsored Artist of the Year. So they have selected her as our sort of flagship artist. And the theme of our exhibit in Los Angeles that the artists are working on is textiles and sustainability. And Jennifer has some beautiful, beautiful work which is to be exhibited in Los Angeles, which combines the use of paint and thread work and embroidery. And we're so excited that we have Jennifer Troughton in this exhibition. She is one of our very strong leading contemporary artists in the north of Ireland.
That's great. Okay, let's take a look at maybe Rita Duffy.
Yeah, Rita is, well, Rita's an international ambassador for visual art. She speaks all over the globe. She has a solo show coming up in the museum in Cork. She is to be held in collection now in the Museum of Modern Art in Dublin. Her work is phenomenal, and so many of our artists, and this is what we try to do, would hold Rita in such high esteem and view her as a mentor and as a leading light. And to have Rita Duffy coming with us to Los Angeles is a huge thing. Her work is very inspired by politics, by social themes, feminism. Her work is really a personal response to global issues, and it speaks volumes. And she's she's an incredible person, and I think that shows in her work. Actually, her personality is immense. And she's very highly regarded. She lectures in art in Trinity University in Dublin. She is an elected member of Astona in the south of Ireland in Dublin, which is an arts committee of very highly esteemed artists. And she also is involved with the Art Council in both the north and south. So she is a real pioneer in that she works across the border. She works equally in the south of Ireland as in the north of Ireland.
That's okay. So I'm going to do something that that Gene probably doesn't want me to do. Is I'd like to ask him some questions too, because this is a collaboration. And so I know you don't like talking on these things very much, Gene, but I'm wondering what your goals are as well. What you would like to accomplish? Why you are entering into these kinds of relationships?
Well, first of all, when I started the museum, I wanted to do something different than what anybody else was doing. And for being a small museum, we do have, a really big reach. In the collection, we have work from a lot of different countries. And, I guess it started with some of the catalogs with the Irish artists, with Morris and the 13 artists that was in that. And then Couples and Partners, there was several artists from UK, and then the lady that wrote the artist profiles was out of London. So we've been reaching out, quite a bit. And I think, by bringing in outside work to the museum, it enriches the community, and also, gives other people's exposure, both different than what's being seen locally. So often, in small museums and stuff, they keep showing the same work over and over, the same people and stuff. And trying to break out of that mold and just show a variety of things and different cultures and things. And up until now, it's all been, the electronic catalogs. So this is the first time that we're doing an actual exhibit. We did have one of Morris's pieces in an exhibit we had last year.
Mm-hmm. That's you used a word there that I find really interesting. Is the word is community. And I'm guessing when you say that, you have multiple levels of idea for what is community. And I think this is both for Ciara and for Gene. What do we mean by community when we're talking about the international art scene?
I think it's the people that are following us that we have connection to, whether it's local people or people in other parts of the world and stuff. It's just the people that we connect with that helps participating in the exhibits and writing and things like that.
And Ciara, do you have a sense of what community you're serving or a part of, or?
Well, it's interesting. I was listening to Jane's response there, and community to me is certainly, it just equals connection and relationships. And so that will continue to grow. And sometimes our community can surprise us, I suppose, in that it goes beyond what our expectations might have been. So, for example, 2 years ago, I did not think that my community, my community that I'm in, I don't mean it belongs to me, but the community that I am in, would have extended to the Sasse Art Museum in Los Angeles. And so I'm delighted that community continues to grow and extend and connect us in ways that go beyond our expectations and keep us alive and keep us vibrant and continue to develop us.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned 2 years ago, and we all know what happened 2 years ago. And there's the curse of COVID, of course, but there's also there've been things that we've gotten from it, such as Zoom, right, where we can have a conversation like this. And do you have a sense of what's going to happen to both the art community and also to museums? Are we changing what that means?
Well, I think museums and galleries and the world of art will become more connected, that it will become more community based, and that actually we have a responsibility to ensure that, so that individual organizations need to connect to one another, and that we do need to collaborate, and that we do need to grow the art community, and that I think is the future. And there is a real strength in that. The moment we start to think outside our own little individual boxes and connect to one another and grow a real art community, that's when the real strength begins.
That's good. And same question to you, Jean. Do you have a sense of where the art world is going, art community is going?
Good question. I'm not sure. I guess I'm so involved just, with what I'm doing, I sort of lose track of what everybody else is doing. But again, trying to expose people to art, and a variety of art and different topics and stuff that may not necessarily have the opportunity to go to the museum, or maybe they're out in the rural area and stuff. And again, just trying to a different approach, in different types of art and stuff. And the catalog I did for December on nativity art from the 14th and 15th century is interesting. The responses I got back from a number of people on it, and was enjoyed it, and it was a different perspective than what's just being done by artists at this moment. So
so you're able to add an educational component to what you're doing.
Actually, I think the whole museum is an educational component.
Well, you said that to me privately, that big thing here is education, and I wonder if you can expand on that.
No, it is. It just, it's just trying to give people a different perspective, developing a dialogue, with between the art. And also we've done a lot with poets and stuff, and with you, John, and other poets and things. And just, I don't know, just trying to expose, like I said, wanted to do something different than was being done. And, with all the catalogs and stuff producing and the exhibits and stuff, they all sort of intertwine with each other.
Well, that's it. And this is for Ciara or Jean. I'm wondering, so we want to, it's a good thing creating an international community. Are there things that, I think we have 20 artists, or patrons at least, here. Are there things as we as artists and patrons can do to help with the mission of the gallery owners and the museum owners?
Get involved, volunteer, help.
What-
Desperately need more help.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree entirely. I think, the more help, the more practical help. So to have the philosophy, fantastic, but take that and turn it into action. And practical help in all ways is really what is required.
Well, that's really interesting to me. I never occurred to me. What are the things that gallery owners need?
Well, I would say, and Jean certainly must agree with me, we need time. And when you're working, and it really is a passion, for both Jean and I think, what we're doing, there are not enough hours in the day to kind of cover everything that we need to do. It's so multifaceted. And if we had a really strong network of volunteers and people who were helping us, then time would be divided between a group, and therefore tasks would become much more manageable. So I think time and workforce kind of join together to create and to grow.
I see. Yeah, I was a book publisher for a number of years. One of the things I found was that I don't know anything about money, and it was a real problem. And having that kind of practical help would have really helped.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? Sometimes I think it's a blessing not to be too knowledgeable about the ins and outs of money, but it is a reality. And yes, I agree with you. Yeah. I need assistance in all sorts of different capacities, dealing in the art world with people, with money, there's so many different aspects. And of course, we don't have expertise in all of those different areas. So different people coming in with different areas of experience and expertise is really what's required to make the whole thing work.
I would think also you would need people in those other countries who understand the ins and outs of the other countries as well to help guide you. To just as you come to the United States, Los Angeles is a weird place. It's hard hard to navigate. And we'll be coming to the Inland Empire, which is it's got its own special thing going. So I would think that would be helpful as well. But I'd like to really open this up to questions from everyone now. Questions or comments or observations. Ken, so your hand now. You're a mute.
Thank you. I'm trying to be polite and not make any noise. So this question is for Ciara. I don't know very much about the scope of your operations. I know you're a gallery. I know you hold exhibits. Most of what I've read has to do more with visual arts, like showing painting and that sort of thing. I'm wondering what other kinds of art activities you have going at Hambly and Hambly.
Okay, I'm delighted that you've asked that question, actually. So we refer to ourselves as a visual art gallery and cultural hub. So we represent visual artists in our physical space all of the time. We have art exhibits going on all year round. But we also work very closely with musicians and literary artists and performing artists. And we hold events at our gallery base to promote music and literature as well. So we will have recitals and concerts and ticketed events that people can attend. But we go beyond that, I suppose, and this is where Jean and I would share a very similar outlook, in that we are trying to educate people. And not only are we trying to educate the general public in terms of music and visuals and literature, but we're also trying to grow development opportunities for our artists. And so we have a residency program in France.
Good.
Whereby we fund 3 artists annually every year to spend time together in France in a residency opportunity. And that is open to musicians, visual artists, literary artists, and performance artists, whereby they come together in France to grow their practice and to develop. And we hold exhibits also in France as well. So that's the leg of Jean and I are entering into this relationship, whereby we'll have an exhibition of visual art, but we are also bringing some musicians and poets from Ireland to work alongside in collaboration with the visuals. And then we, the Sasse Art Museum and Hambly are going to France, where we have very strong connections to do an exhibit and performance of music and literature in France. And then we'll come back to Ireland. So it's very much a multi-art project, I suppose.
That's fantastic.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
It is fantastic.
A number of people here are both visual arts and musicians or writers, and so that's very exciting. And Kate has her hand up.
Yeah, hi, Ciara. Lovely to hear you speak about all of the sort of cross-pollination that you seem to be engaged in. And I spent my holidays in Switzerland and made my way to the Paul Klee Museum up in Bern. And one of the things that wonderful place. But one of the things that really impressed me about that place, and partly because I have an 8-year-old grandson, and we took him there, and there was a very focused effort on the part of that museum to engage children and to provide opportunities for children to come to interact with things, and also to take classes. And I was wondering if that's anything that you have thought about or might be doing right now, or have thought about in terms of partnering with educational institutions or art centers that might allow children to become more engaged, and this, of course, their parents as well.
Well, I am actually, my background is I'm a teacher, so I'm very involved always with children and young people, and would have them at the forefront of, because they are our future, and we can learn so much from them in terms of their attitude and their outlook, and trying to keep our own childlike nature alive in our appreciation of things. So we have schools in to view our exhibitions. We have artists talking, giving talks about their work to school groups. And we have just recently advertised to do classes with very young children and parents. So sort of like toddler age children, connecting with art and being involved with music and painting with their parents, and sort of growing relationships in that way, and growing making art a real part of their lives, I suppose. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think children, we have to involve children, you know, it's really, really important.
That's interesting that you're engaging them with current artists as well. It's not just this sort of historical thing. You're approaching the here and now. Oh, Cindy has a question.
Actually, it's a comment. So I just wanted to say that a couple things. I mean, I combine the arts, so I love that Ciara and Jean, you know, support that. But I want to say to Ciara, you know, you're outstanding artists. I look forward to seeing them at the Sassy Museum. But I love your excitement about them. You know, art can become like really serious and really, you know, art speak and all these things. And, you know, you speak about them intelligently, but there's also just this joy of your artists that you represent as people, as creatives. So that also goes beyond just the technical expertise or whatever, and they're ambassadors for you. And I think that's wonderful.
Oh, that's so lovely to hear. And I'm so pleased actually that you've picked up on that, because that is what it's all about to me. It's about relationships, relationships with the art, but also relationships with the people who create the art, because the art wouldn't exist if it weren't for them. So that's really important to me, the fundamental relationship with the artists, and that the artists have between themselves and creating opportunities. So when we come to LA, we are hoping that we will give our artists opportunity to actually create in collaboration in Los Angeles, with environment being in a totally different international context, and see what they might create visually, musically, and in terms of literature whilst they're in a totally foreign environment.
I'm guessing that you have 20 people right now listening who are thinking, oh, maybe I could collaborate, and are excited to do that. Great. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Well, so I then think I want to follow up with what Cindy is saying, and the joy that you have with this for the artists, and the clear and obvious joy, which is I think important. And I'm wondering if that comes from just the fact that you're communicating with somebody, if that they're opening you to something new way of looking, or where does that joy come from? What is the joy of the gallery owner?
I think the joy is in continually, and it goes back to the child. You know, we have this pertinent question about children being involved, but art keeps me personally, and I think it does the same for everybody else, it keeps us alive. It keeps us continuing to grow and to see things with fresh eyes, as though we were children still. And that is joy. To me, that is joy. That is being involved in life and continuing to see something new and to be excited. And I think it's very important not to look at things just entirely technically, and to allow yourself to be absorbed in the moment, in the joy, in the sheer excitement of seeing something new, and allowing yourself to be transported and taken to somewhere really exciting and different with art.
Right. Well, I've got one last question, and then we'll see if anybody else has any questions before we leave. Oh, Fred has a
It's
question.
Bobby Stoll. I'm the invisible artist here who doesn't have a photo up, but I must say that Hambly and Hambly is one of those galleries that is lacking in a high level of commercialism and 1000% for the artist. And I was extremely impressed. And I can't wait until Ciara gets here to Los Angeles.
Great.
Bobby, I'm so pleased you're out there. I can't see you, but I heard your beautiful, unforgettable voice there. And it was an absolute pleasure. For those of you who don't know, Bobby and I met in Enniskillen just recently, and Bobby came to the gallery, and I'm just honoured that we're going to be exhibiting some of her works at the Sassay Art Museum, Jean and I together. She's a phenomenally talented artist and a really exciting person with multi-dimensions, which is reflected in her artwork.
Great. And Fred, you had your hand up.
Yes. Obviously, we have two different organizations here, a gallery and a museum. And my question is, with such an overlap in common interests regarding the arts, I'm curious, I guess the question is to both Jean and to Ciara, as to Ciara, why are you not a museum? And Jean, why are you not a gallery?
Let you go first,
Well,
Ciara.
I think that is really a question which pertains to the fact that Jean is in the USA and I am in the north of Ireland, because museums here are very much public spaces, and obviously we are a private organisation, and private organisations don't very easily get museum status in Ireland. So that's just the nature of our international relationship. Jean is a museum and I'm a gallery, and we're actually doing the same thing but under different labels, I think.
And I'm in the wrong place to be a commercial gallery to sell work. And there's a need for culture in this area. So that's why I'm a museum and not a gallery. And that would involve a lot more work, marketing, artists and stuff and selling. And wearing three hats is enough as it is.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
I have a very practical question. When and where? How do we see Ciara and her artists and writers and poets?
So we're coming with great enthusiasm to Los Angeles, and the exhibition will open on the 13th of May. And the visual art exhibition will run until the end of June. And throughout the first week of the visual art exhibition, we will have performances from musicians and poets. And it'll be all very well advertised. It'll be all over Jean's website. It'll be all over our website, but we will have a much bigger advertising campaign, I hope. And we will be supported by big public bodies, the arts councils, and everything, the consulates, the embassies. Everybody's going to get behind us and bring it to world attention. And then we'll take it, as I've said, from America to France to Ireland. And we'll keep you all very much informed of what's going on and the dates and the locations.
And I'm talking with the Fox Theater about, for the concert part of it.
Oh, that'd be incredible if you could get that. That'd be great. Okay, well, I think this is a really great discussion. And Ciara, thank you so much for coming and talking to us about this.
I'm delighted. I'm so delighted to be connecting to the USA and to be growing relationships. It's wonderful, wonderful opportunity. So thank you. I would say thank you to Morris for introducing myself and Jane. Thank you to Jane for being such a wonderful host and such an open person, and for the connection. And thank you to John for conducting this interview. And thank you to all of the artists who are out there and who we're working with.
You too. All right. Well, we'll see you next month. And Gene, do you know what the conversation will be next month?
Well, that's a conversation I need to have with you. We talked a few weeks ago about doing, a panel discussion on creativity or some other avenues. So that's the plan. So I need to chat with you about that a bit more.
Okay, great. And I hope you all come next time.
Thank you.